welcome to this deep dive. It's crafted just for you, actually, based on the source material you shared with us.
That's right. We've got some really interesting excerpts from a YouTube transcript.
Yeah, looking at nihilism and, specifically through the eyes of Friedrich Nietzsche.
So our goal today, our mission, is really to unpack this concept. It can feel pretty heavy sometimes, nihilism.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So what is it exactly? How did Nietzsche deal with it?
And maybe most importantly, what did he suggest as a way through it?
Think of this as your guided tour of the ideas in your material. We'll pull out the key nuggets.
Try and make sense of what can be a pretty complex philosophical path.
Okay, let's dive in then. Let's start with the basics. Nihilism. What is it at its heart?
Well, fundamentally, it's about rejection. The rejection of, well, everything. It's that state where life just seems meaningless.
Your material uses the term sarvanakarvad to describe that idea.
Yeah, and it's different from skepticism, which is interesting. Skepticism is more like, I doubt it, show me the proof. But nihilism, it takes it a step further. It's not just doubt. It's a kind of refusal to believe at all.
Like your source says, everything is useless, you are useless, I am useless.
Everything is useless. Yeah, it's that total negation.
And the word itself, nihilism, comes from the Latin nihil, right? Meaning nothing.
Exactly. The philosophy of no, basically, of negation.
And it's not a brand new idea, is it?
Yeah.
Questioning knowledge, rejecting things that's been around in philosophy.
Oh, for a long time, in various forms. But it really caught fire, you could say, in the 19th century.
That's when Nietzsche started writing about it so much. Your material highlights that.
He really brought it into the foreground, yeah. And central to his whole engagement with it is that famous phrase,
God is dead.
God is dead. And your material rightly points out this wasn't him saying, a deity literally died.
No, it was more symbolic.
It symbolized, for him, this massive loss of faith he saw happening in the modern world. Loss of faith in the traditional religious and moral values.
So he saw a kind of domino effect.
Precisely. If people stop believing in God, who, as your source notes, was seen as the ultimate source and enforcer of morality, like, don't lie because God sees you.
Right, the anchor.
Then that whole foundation for traditional morality starts to wobble. If God's not the basis, maybe morality itself isn't fixed.
So rejecting God leads to rejecting the morality tied to God.
That was Nietzsche's observation, as presented here. And it doesn't stop there. Rejecting those core moral values, good, evil, can lead to rejecting everything connected, like truth and falsehood.
And that leads to nihilism.
That ushers in this state where life can feel utterly meaningless, devoid of purpose.
Wow, like the whole operating system just crashed.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And your material makes it really clear this isn't just one simple thing. Nihilism shows up in different flavors.
Right, it has different faces. Let's maybe look at some of those. Your material mentions metaphysical nihilism first.
Yes. This is the idea that, well, maybe nothing is actually real. Or, if there is a reality, we can't truly know it.
What we see might just be illusion.
Kind of. Your source actually points to echoes of this in, say, Advaita Vedanta, Brahmasatya, Jagat Mithya, Brahma is real, the world is illusory. Or in Buddhism, the concept of shunyata, emptiness, like Nagarjuna discussed. Even modern thinkers like Sartre and Camus touch on it when they talk about existence being meaningless before we impose meaning.
Okay, then there's moral nihilism.
Yeah.
And your source says this is the one Nietzsche was really focused on.
That's right. This is straight-up rejection of objective moral values, no inherent good or bad.
Humans just made it all up.
Essentially, yeah. For convenience, for society, whatever. But there's no universal cosmic right or wrong out there.
Okay. And then existential nihilism. This one feels more familiar, maybe.
Possibly. It's the idea that life itself, the universe, has no built-in meaning or purpose. The cosmos just doesn't care about us.
Sounds bleak.
It can. But here's a key difference your source highlights, especially compared to moral nihilism. Existential nihilism, particularly as thinkers like Sartre, Camus, and Nietzsche too explored it.
Yes.
It often comes with a twist. You can create your own meaning. Even in a meaningless universe, your choices, your actions, can build a personal sense of purpose.
Okay, so it's not just despair.
Not necessarily. There's potential for agency there.
And the last one mentioned is political nihilism.
Right. This is rejecting all the existing structures, government, authority, systems like democracy or monarchy.
Just wanting to tear it all down.
Often, yeah, a desire to destroy the system, maybe without a clear idea of what comes next.
Your source gives that interesting example of the Noda option none of the above in Indian elections.
Exactly. It's a way for voters to say no to all the choices offered. It's a form of rejecting the whole political menu presented to them.
So, yeah, these aren't just dusty philosophical ideas. They actually show up in culture, in art.
Oh, absolutely. Your material gives some great examples. In literature, for instance.
Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, Raskolnikov.
A classic example of moral nihilism put into fiction. Raskolnikov thinks he's above ordinary morality, right? He justifies murder for this perceived greater good.
But it doesn't end well for him internally.
Not at all. Your source points out how it leads to this immense psychological torment, suggesting that maybe living out pure moral nihilism isn't exactly sustainable or healthy.
Then there's Camus, the outsider, Mersault.
Presented here as embodying existential nihilism, he's so detached, indifferent to his mother's death, to the murder he commits. Life is absurd, meaningless to him.
Camus really pushes that absurdity.
He does, but what's fascinating, and your source notes this, is that by the end, Mersault finds a strange kind of peace, almost a relief in accepting the universe's indifference.
Finding meaning in the meaninglessness.
Something like that. It's very existentialist, accepting the void and finding freedom in it, maybe.
Powerful. And it shows up in music, too, according to your material.
Yeah, like the band Nirvana. Kurt Cobain often seen as this modern symbol of nihilistic feelings, especially for younger people.
Smells Like Teen Spirit is mentioned. That feeling of rejection, disillusionment.
Exactly. And then there's that incredible example from Hindi cinema.
Ah, yes, the song Ye Dunya Agar Mil Bhi Jaye To Kya Hai from Pyasa.
Penned by Sahir Lutyambi. The title basically means, so what if I gain this whole world? Your source describes it as just pure meaninglessness embodied in song.
Rejecting everything, society, customs, power.
Koi, meaning hina hai pai, as the source quotes. There's just no meaning, brother. It's raw. Your material connects Sahir to figures like Sartre and Camus, a blend of maybe communism and existentialism.
Wow. That phrase, koi, meaning hina hai pai, really hits hard.
It does. It captures that feeling so directly, makes it very human.
Okay, so we've looked at what nihilism is, the different kinds, seen it in culture. Let's loop back fully to Nietzsche.
Right.
For him, this rising tide of meaninglessness, especially after God is dead, pulled the rug out from under traditional values. This is a huge deal.
A major challenge, even dangerous, he thought. It could lead to despair, this realization that the old anchors were just gone.
But, and this is crucial, your material really stresses this, he didn't just see it as a problem.
No, not at all. He actually saw nihilism as a kind of necessary phase, something humanity almost had to pass through.
Not the final stop, but a transition point.
Exactly. And more than that, he saw it as an opportunity, a chance to wipe the slate clean, in a way, and create new values.
Okay, and that brings us to his big response, right?
Yeah.
The will to power.
Absolutely central. Your material frames it as his core philosophical tool for confronting nihilism.
And it's not just about, like, dominating people.
Oh, that's a common misreading. Your source explains it more as this fundamental inner drive, the drive to assert your real power, your potential, an urge for growth, for overcoming, for just being more intensely.
It's the force behind self-overcoming them.
That's the idea. Moving from where you are now to where you want to be, or could be. Achieving growth.
Your material uses that analogy of a child learning to walk.
Yeah, it's a great one. The child's current state is crawling. The target is walking. They fall, they struggle, but they keep getting up, pushing forward.
That's the will to power in action.
That persistent effort, that inner drive to achieve walking, that's an expression of the will to power. It's related to willpower, sure, but deeper, more fundamental.
So let's connect that back. Nihilism is the current state, meaninglessness, loss of old values.
Right. A difficult state.
And the target state is creating new values, new meaning.
Precisely. And the path between those two states, that's self-overcoming. And the engine driving you along that path, that's the will to power.
Ah, okay. So your source presents the will to power as Nietzsche's actual solution to nihilism.
As the way to fight it, yes. To fight the despair. It empowers that struggle, not against others, but against your own limitations, your old ways of thinking.
The effort to change yourself, create new values, and actively reject meaninglessness.
Exactly. And this whole process, the struggle and self-overcoming, your material notes, it's a key step towards becoming what Nietzsche later called the Übermensch.
The superhuman or overman.
Yeah, that figure who has moved beyond existing limitations and successfully created their own values.
And interestingly, your source suggests looking at Nietzsche himself.
As an example, yeah. His own life's work seems to trace this path, grappling with the death of God, the resulting nihilism,
And then?
and then asserting his own will to power, pouring energy into his philosophy, developing these new concepts like the Übermensch. He arguably overcame his own nihilistic phase through this intense creative effort.
So that transformation, turning the negative on nihilism into a positive opportunity through will to power and self-overcoming, that's the core of his relationship with it, as your source sees it.
That really seems to be the key takeaway presented here.
Okay. We've really gone deep into your source material here on nihilism and Nietzsche.
We've tried to unpack what it is, looked at the different forms,
Metaphysical, moral, existential, political,
seen how it echoes in literature and music, those powerful examples.
and then really focused on Nietzsche's perspective, seeing nihilism not just as this crisis, but as a necessary stage.
A stage that actually holds an opportunity, weirdly enough.
Yeah, an opportunity for creation, driven by his whole concept of the will to power.
That engine for self-overcoming, for forging new meaning when the old meanings fade.
It really comes through in your sources, that tension. Nihilism presents this huge challenge of meaninglessness.
But for Nietzsche, it simultaneously opens this radical possibility, the chance to actually make your own values, your own purpose.
Definitely leaves you with a lot to think about. So maybe here's something to mull over, pulling directly from what we've discussed today based on your sources.
Okay.
If nihilism, as suggested here, is a necessary phase we have to navigate, what does that truly imply about the potential for growth, for transformation, the kind that might only be possible within those really profound moments of questioning when all the old certainties seem to dissolve?